Welcome everyone for this Arcsight demo session. Thanks for sparing the time and attending this session. So about me, I am having around 10 plus years of experience in SIM field. I've not written much here, but so my experience is basically on the complete SIMs. Okay, it's not just Arcsight. I have experience in multiple SIM tool. Okay, throughout my 10 years, I have worked as an in SOC. Okay, which is a Security Operations Center. Okay, where basically I joined as an operator first initially, and I used to monitor the complete network infra and using an SIM tool called ArcSight. After that, I moved on to an analyst profile where my work profile was more into the analysis part, and then was into in implementation, which involves source onboarding, okay, use case content creations. For this, I have used ArcSight. I have almost spent my 6-7 years in ArcSight. Then next Splunk, then Logarithm. So I have expertise in all, like I can say four different SIM tools. Okay, this is about me. About the course, I have listed down the topic. How I am planning to start is starting from the basic with the event. Okay, what is an event? How an event flow? Then it comes to ArcSight architecture. What is an ArcSight basically? What are the different components of an ArcSight? How an ArcSight gets set up in a network? How is the flow between the ArcSight component? Then the ArcSight component we have, like an ESM logger is the ArcSight component, major components you can say. We'll go into the installation part. Okay, we will install one by one. So where we'll pick the setup file right from the scratch. We'll set up a VM, okay, and then we'll install the VM first, the OS on top of it, preferably RHL, and then we'll pick the ESM file and the logger will install it. And I will teach you with the basic, like what are things we need to prerequisite before installing, what we need to do. And like once the prerequisite is done, then the installation part will begin, and then we'll continue with the installation. And the way post installation, we will access it. I'll tell you how we can access it. The IP assign. So it will be from the scratch. Okay, like right from the basic. The IP assigning, hostname assigning, from that will start. So no need to worry, even if you are not familiar with the Linux platform, because I understand many of the people they are more good, they prefer Windows compared to Linux. No need to worry, even if you are like not much familiar with this training. I will give you the content material or the commands which are required, basic command for this ArcSight functioning. Okay, in a way that would again help you to learn Linux system. So then we'll see of the smart connector. There's a smart written in front of it. So I will tell you why it is the smart connector and all. This will come later. The connector installations, there are around 450 plus different connectors. Basically, as of now, just understand that it's a log collection way or a log collector which collects the logs and forward it ESM and logger. Okay, so we'll talk about its functionality and the feature, like what all things we can do once we receive the logs. Then we'll be onboarding the devices. I will end the log baselining. So I will explain you the log baselining, what is a log baselining. It's basically way of collecting a log from end device. If you people are not aware with much of the network, these terms you will find difficult, but then slowly once we move forward, you will understand. Okay, what is a end device or what is a log source? Just for now, in a simple word, suppose you want to collect from the logs from a Windows machine. I will show you what are the things you need to do before you can just get the logs from a Windows machine. Or if you need to get the logs from a syslog device, what are the configuration you have to perform? Or you ask the system admin to perform on the Linux server, which makes the logs push to your ArcSight setup. So once we understand this log source onboarding part, then I have planned for the content creations. Okay, which is very much important. What are the different contents we can create on an ESM? So we will understand like what is a filter, active channel, field set. So basically, ArcSight is all about the use cases. A use case is basically kind of situation you want to get notified, or you want your customer to be notified once that situation arises. So, and to give you an example, like a brute force, or let me put in a simpler term, like a repeated login failures, okay, from a particular user. Say user X is there, and we see 4 or 5 continuous failed login happening from a single minute, from a single source. That is something which is not normal thing in a given day, or like say after office hours. Okay, if it is happening, I want a notification. So for that, we create a content on ESM which will notify me immediately such event. Okay, because see, you have to understand, having ArcSight or any sim in place, it doesn't mean that you will sit and monitor everything on it. You still want some kind of automation or some more help from the system, that it notifies you. Okay, even after getting the log for you, everything, it should pop up. It should send a message, or it should send a notification saying that yes, Mr. X has been like, we can see a multiple login failure for Mr. X. Okay, just an example I'm telling you. So for that content, these are the things which we need to learn in ESM, like the filter, active channel, feed set, active list, rules, dashboard, data monitor, codes, queries. Okay, so you have to understand there are 3 major categories here, like reports, which works on a historical, helps us in pulling up the historic data. Your rules and a dashboard which works on a real-time databases. In detail we'll go, you will understand, but as of just keep in mind that the 3 categories: rules, reports, and dashboard. Then we have an ArcSight command center as well, which I will show you what are the functionality, or what is it, and what other things you can do at command center, that will see, and the logger part. So once we have the logger installation and the connector pushing the logs, we getting the logs inside the logger. I will teach you the logger search, how to write a logger search, the query part, the data extraction, because this becomes very much important. Okay, just getting the logs is one thing, but then you need to have an understanding on those logs and share the logs with the concerned team is another important thing. Okay, which works as an operation side. So here we will not just consider the administration, which involves the installation of this ArcSight component and log device onboarding. Plus, it talks about the operation also, where we will analyze the log. Okay, and I'll show you how the logs we can extract it, what are the queries we can write to extract the logs, and then how we can share it with the end team, and the format, like a CSV PDF format, we can decide that. The introduction, okay, the demo part. Okay, so far we have, whatever I've shown you is the main course content. So let's start with the today's topic, okay, which is basically I have prepared for you the ArcSight introductory part. I forgot to mention, like, that with the course content is one thing. Apart from this, I'll also be sharing with you the use case document, the alert analysis, the run book, the SOC interview questions. Okay, I also worked last 2 years. I was part of a interview panel, and I used to recruit SOC candidates. So I can share from my experience what are the questions I used to ask. Okay, so I have prepared the sample list, or the list of questions, you can say, which I used to ask. I will share that. Okay, we can have a discussion on that as well. The resume format, what all things you need to mention there. Okay, that is something. And of course, you will get the recorded lectures. Okay, plus ArcSight operation handbook, basically a short, because if you have seen the manuals, I don't know if you have, but then it is very huge. Okay, and going through the complete manual is big task. Okay, so I have cut down it into a shorter version and called it as an operation handbook here. So that I will share with you. Plus, there will be setup files, okay, which I will be sharing with you, like for the logger and for the connectors, okay, which I would also want you to install it on your system. Okay, of course, you need a VM setup on your system where you can install it. So I will be sharing the logger and the connector setup for you, and plus the some of the test events. Okay, because I know the setting up is one thing, but then what you'll do post that, okay, that you need some logs to play around, right, to build your content. For that, I will be sharing the test event as well. These are some of the few perks you'll get. There's no prior knowledge of sim technology, and we'll start it right at the bottom and building your knowledge base as we go along. This is a network of your like any organization. Okay, mostly they'll have all different type of devices. So Windows domain logs, mainframe logs. These are different like scanner logs, switch, web server, IDS, IPS. So if we start at the beginning, basically an IP network, okay, is made up of software applications, okay, or and the hardware application, hardware appliances. Okay, like devices like you have, if you consider network devices, okay, what is that? If I can consider firewall, router, switches, okay, these are all consist of create my network devices. Then we have operating systems, okay, different types of operating, because see, in your system you might have Windows, you might have RHL, or you might have Mac, okay, but in an organizational level you will have, of course, you will have more flavors of Unix like AIX, HPUX, Solaris. Okay, so we'll collect logs not just from the network devices. You will collect the logs from networks, operating system, database like Oracle, SQL, and so on. Okay, MySQL, MS SQL. Okay, so then we have applications. Okay, applications which are custom based. Okay, like that is specific to your environment, like any kind of application, business application, which generates the logs. All this network, operating system, a database, application, all these are basically the vendor of these applications, okay, or the hardware, basically record the details of that event or the transaction. Okay, what is often referred as event log. In a simple term, if I talk about a log, it's basically a record of a particular event. Event log is basically whenever something happens in your application or in the hardware appliance, it generates the record, and the record of that whatever happened is called as event. This event logs is basically what we collect from the all the different network devices, applications, operating systems, database. Just give you more example. I don't know if you have not understood, I'll give you more example. Like a computer switches on off, it generates a log. Change is made to the database, a log is generated. Okay, someone logs in to your network successfully, it generates a login to the network. But then in your system also, when you are connected to your domain, it's in network, right? So once you log into the system also, it generates a log. If a virus is detected by the antivirus, a log is generated. These are just an example. Okay, one more fine example is could be a phone call. A phone call is made, a log gets generated for that. So and so on. Okay, so these logs get generated where? It gets generated at the devices, at the device level. So once the logs are there at the device level, we need to get those logs, right? And plus the logs which get generated will be from a different vendors also, right? It could be from Cisco, it could be from FortiGate, it could be Checkpoint, it could be SQL log. All are different, okay? And so we need to get it through one, like all the logs into one standard format. Just remember this term CEF. Okay, it's very useful if you, and it is a must to know thing. Okay, because ArcSight supports CEF format. Okay, that's their standard format, the common event format. Okay, basically format where this format will be created by the connector. If the device logs are not in this format, this will be converted into the device logs will be converted to CEF format by the connector, and then it will be pushed to the ESM and the log. So this is like a brief idea on the thing. Okay, now once we understood what is an event log, okay, what is an ArcSight? ArcSight is, as we all have said, it's an SIM tool. Okay, SIM stands for Security Information and Event Management. It's an event management solution. What it does, it collects those event logs and push it a centralized console for you to monitor it, for you to alert or focus on the suspicious behavior, the anomalies. Okay, it highlights the anomalies to you. So just there are different points written here. I don't want to go each and every point, but then you need to have a one idea saying that it's an event management solution and it helps in collecting the logs from all the different sources. It correlates and it shows me on my bigger screen and notifies you on in case of any anomalies. So what are the ArcSight components? So far you must have heard me taking the name called ESM Logger Smart Connector. What are those? A smart connector. Okay, this is the first unit of ArcSight which gets the event log which we saw at the which gets generated at the devices. How the logs are getting pushed towards the smart connector, or your smart connector goes and takes the logs. Okay, there are two different ways of log collection. I will not go into depth for today's class because this topics any which ways we have to cover when we are installing the smart connector. Just to give you a brief on it, your agent basically works in two ways. One is pull mechanism and one is push mechanism. So push mechanism is basically where the end device are capable enough of pushing the logs towards the smart connector. Another way is pull mechanism where they cannot push and your smart connector has to go log into that end device and pick the log files and come back. So how it happens and all I will show you later. But just understand there are two different ways of doing it, push and a pull of log collection. So towards the smart connector. So once it collects, there are different functions like why it calls as smart connector and all. Everything I'll talk about later. Okay. So basically you just understand there are four functions which smart connector performs. First, normalization, converting it into a structure format. Then there is categorization, doing the event enrichment. Third is your filtering. Fourth is filtering is basically removing the unwanted part. Okay, and fourth is aggregation, combining the similar into events into one. I'm sure it will go from on top of you, but then just understand it. Smart connect is something which collects the logs in simple terms. Once it collects the logs, okay, as I said, it's the first part of ArcSight. Once it collects, it needs to forward the logs, right? Once it has received, it has converted into CF, it has to be pushed to different destination. So it can push to so from our agent, we can push the logs to a CF file, or we can push to a CSV file, or we can push to ArcSight component called ESM, which stands for Enterprise Security Manager, which is basically receives the event from connector, writes the event into a database. So ESM have its own database. Okay, another must to know thing is core engine, which is a name of the database which ESM have. It's a name given to the database, okay, for ESM. There's another unit called as logger, okay, which is again a log storage unit, and its main purpose is for the data retention. So, and the faster searching. ESM, you may ask me why when we have a ESM, why we need a logger? Absolutely correct. You don't need logger, or you need ESM, you don't need a logger. It's up to you. What is that in ESM we use? Okay, what's the purpose mainly we use ESM for? As the name suggested there, correlation. Yes, we use it for the correlation, creating a dashboard, creating a report, or more than report, dashboard, and for the rules, creating a correlation rules is much easier in ESM than the logger. The dashboard can be created in logger, but then it will not be that effective. Okay, the presentation wouldn't be that. Logger is basically people just want, first they had only ESM, then they came up with logger because the ESM, the searching is not that good. So the searching part, if you want to search for the longer duration, you cannot search it like in a faster way. You can search it, but then using, there are something called as active channel. Okay, you can run the active channel, you can get the data, but then the data which you get is also something, it will be in a raw format, kind of, not raw format, basically it will be in a different columns, and it will not give you the count as such, which logger provides. Okay, logger give you a very good representation of data. Okay, I mean, while searching, you can extract, you can view the data easily. I mean, suppose, let's say, if I want to check the log which I'm getting from different devices, how many are those? So the number will not come in ArcSight ESM, but in logger, when you search itself, you will find it on the towards your lab. But again, we use logger because it is very useful in searching. it can be used as a Google search kind of thing. You don't have to actually give like a source address equals this. No, not required. You can just how you go and put anything on the Google search bar, you can do it in the logger search also. That is your logger. Just to brief this page here, we have a connector which forwards the logs to ESM and to logger. One of you asked me whether the designing part here, see here again, you can have, it depends, and it depends, requires a lot of discussion with the network team, with the box here, respective box, like how they want the log flow and how's the network setup there. Okay, whether the smart connect ESM, because of the limitation of the storage, we do not want to push everything on the ESM. Okay, we just want ESM to be used only for the rule based events. Okay, so what we'll do is at the smart connector itself, we'll just filter out all the events. Okay, we'll push from the smart connector, we'll push everything to the logger so that the data gets saved there. From the logger, we can just limit the things which is required for my correlation rules to work on. So only those events will be pushed to ESM. I hope this components part is somewhat clear to you. I'm sure you'll not get 100% here, but then a brief small like a definition kind of thing you'll be able to tell now. Okay, just have a look at this. So this is basically an ESM architecture which consists of your log sources here. Okay, then which goes to the connectors. Okay, you can see it's a ESM, so you will not have a logger. So log sources, different log sources, push the logs to the smart connector. Connectors are different. Okay, there are multiple connectors. There are smart connectors, there are flex connectors. Okay, so you will have these questions. What is a flex connectors, smart connectors? Everything will be answered, don't worry. As of now, just understand a connector collects the log from the log devices. A different type of connector, we will go through it. So this connectors can get installed. Okay, it's basically a software file, okay, which is installed on a server. If it is installed on a server, the server becomes a connector server. The connector is installed on an appliance. Now the question will be, what is an appliance? Okay, so appliance is basically, you can say in a like a layman term, you can say that okay, it's a hardware with a predefined set of configuration, like a fixed set of processor, fixed RAM, any device or any hardware which comes with predefined set of configuration, we call it as an appliance. Easy definition and good to remember definition. So that is, you have one lady said she's having logger appliance. Actually, logger is your software file. Okay, it's a basically a software executable file. So now, if this software executable installed on a server, so what it becomes? It becomes a logger server, but software log. In her environment, she has an appliance. Okay, means what? One hardware. It's basically one hardware unit which got shipped directly from the OEMs. In our case, it is Microfocus now. Okay, shift to Microfocus. So Microfocus has it. So Microfocus has given one box with with already set of fixed configuration in it. And because it's a logger appliance, so they have already embedded the logger software inside this unit. So then this box is given to in her environment. It is there. Okay, same way we have connector appliance. There could be connector servers also. Could be connector appliance. As the name suggests, it's a hardware where the connector software is already built in or is already installed in. Okay, that's why it is called as connector. Similarly, for ESM, do we have it? Yes, we had Express. It was called as an Express. Okay, where Express was an appliance basically which was embedded with ESM software. So this ESM is also a software which nowadays people don't prefer it. It was a way of tricking it to get more and more customers. So people have also given and there's another way, or because one more reason being feel is because people don't wanted to invest their server for the ArcSight application. So that's why the Microfocus was giving their own appliances. But nowadays people want scalability. They say customer environment place, they'll have it their own servers deployed and they will make the changes at the configuration as per their needs. So they only take the software like an ESM software or the logger software and that they get deployed on the server. So once they install on its server, software will become the respective will change towards like ESM will become ESM server and then logger will become logger server. And the benefit of having this is you can do the scalability, like you can change the RAM, you can increase the storage, other things. So just an overview on the ESM side, say connectors can be deployed on multiple servers, on a Linux machine, on Windows, on Unix, AIX. So once you install it, it all goes toward the ESM. ESM will have, as I said, it has a database in it, okay, which basically captures the logs, stores the logs. For representation, it is always on the ESM side. How do we see it? Once the logs is here, are we just log in and see it on the server? We can do that, but that's not advisable. We have a software for that which connects to the ESM, views the data. Connect to the ESM, you can using a software. We call it as an Arcsight console software. It's again a software executable file. Okay, if you don't want that, you want to view it on the browser, so you can do that as well, which is called as management console. So you just go to the browser, type the IP address, the port number, and you can view it. What is the port number? Must to know. ESM works at 84434. Your communication from your smart connector towards the ESM happens at 8443. Management console works on the browser port 8443. What is this ArcSight Web? This is another service which was there till 6.5 ESM version 6.5, but which is now been removed. Okay, this was used to work at 94434, but now the service is not there. ArcSight Web Service. So I'll not go into detail. But the console is a software executable file which you can install on your Windows machine or whichever machine you have. Only thing you need to have a connectivity towards your ESM server, and the port 8443 should be open from your console towards the ESM. So see, the person sitting in San Francisco can, of course, you can access it here. The person sitting in New York may face the difficulty while accessing it because if in between, if there are certain firewalls in there, you need to ensure that firewall, the port 8443 is open. The term smart connector, let me just explain you why I was telling you this, because connector is what is basically collect the log, push the logs, receive the logs, forward it. Okay, that is what called as a connector. But we call it as a smart connector because of its functionality. Okay, it takes the logs, convert it into a format. Okay, basically convert it into a CF format. Okay, then what it does, it adds up the event categorization fields which I was talking about. Then it does the asset modeling. This is something which is basically, you can say it can be done on ESM also, so we'll leave it. Normalization, categorization, filtering, as the name suggests, filter. It helps you to remove the unwanted event from passing to the next destination. And the aggregation. What is an aggregation? Okay, basically, if there are multiple events are there, then it can be merged into one single event. That is the basically functionality of an aggregation. So these are the 4 important terms which you should know, and that is why it is called as smart connector. Logger, we have already know bit about it. It's a data storage appliance, helpful in basically in searching. The another thing is the compression. So that compression which it follows is 10:1. Okay, must to know what's the compression of logger. Okay, like once an event has been received to the logger, how does it save the event? So that you should know. So it saves the logs into 10:1 format. Compress it, like you have a zip software in your system, right? You zip the files, so the size reduces. So here also it does it in the 10:1 ratio. And majorly logger use is for the forensic purpose. This is a console, the software which I was talking about. Once this is the major part where any SOC operation or will be carried out on this ESM side. So console, you have these different units which are used, like an active channel, connector. Okay, we will go through each and everything in detail. Just have a look here that there are 3 different panels: navigator, viewer, and inspect edit. Navigator to check all the resources which you have. Viewer just shows all the events. This one is for the resources which we have, like an active channel, reports, rules. Then we have viewer channel where we have basically we can see all the different events which we get inside the smart connect inside the ESM. And if I want to see the details of that event, where it goes to the right side, which is the 3rd panel, which is called as inspect edit panel, and which will give me all this information. We do have certifications. We have admin analyst certifications. Okay, the exact code I won't be able to recall now, but we have ArcSight Microfocus. It's because now it has been taken from HP. It has been taken by Microfocus, so they have it. So I can get you the code also, but it is available on the site internet. You can just Google Microfocus Admin Analyst Certificate. You will get. And I would push you guys to go for that once you complete this training. You can check the content and it will be more and like it is same what we will be covering, which is needed for that certification. You can share your feedback later with the team. Okay, they'll reach out to you. Thank you everyone for your time.